Thank you for having me here this afternoon. When Professor German asked me to do this in October last year, I asked Alison to add Hough. He's poking me because I'm sure you have a reputation of being unconventional. So I want to make sure but that said, the title is no accident. And if any of you think the title is anything but the literal meaning of those words, don't you mind? Because Jamaica is the son of our nation's product, which is coastal zone. As a result of coastal processes that occurred over 1,000 million years. And this is something that we are taking very seriously. Now, this is not a Negril presentation, but we do investigate and take through the slides, but then I never got a shirt. I won't hold it against you. But Jamaica is more than the land of the water. Jamaica is people. Jamaica is a way of life, culture, dreams, and crushing realities. We're going to talk about all these things in the context of Jamaica and the coastal zone. But before I do that, I want to speak about some of the activities that my organization has taken in the coastal zone over the last 10 years, including storm surge work in Baltimore, Breakwater, Solution, and Breakwater International. My deputy director has been in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, measuring ocean circulation, setting up a virtual coastal dynamics modeling lab. This is where we're going to be taking this presentation, looking at how the technology is applied to common problems, things that we don't know all these areas approaching different. We've done coral reef protection and valuation of coral systems. But if I need to explain what the coastal zone is to you guys, I'm in the wrong place. But it is a conflict of interest. We do have historical interest in the coastal zone. We do have economic interest in the coastal zone. Of course, there's environmental interest in the coastal zone. It's a convergence of these where you either have conflict or you have opportunity. This is where we're going to explore how the information that is produced from each of these spheres, how they're, when they're converged, what you get. So this presentation we're going to look at the history of Jamaica and the coastline. We're going to look at the current situation. We're going to look at some global examples. We're going to do some modeling. We're going to create a typology of Jamaica and shoreline as a frame of reference. Negril is very important, but there are other Negrils in Jamaica. We're going to look at that. The key thing that we're going to be doing, this is an original brand new presentation that did not exist before Professor Weber contacted me in October last year. But now I'm doing a lot of work in coastal research. So we can put them all together for a brand new presentation for you guys this evening. But it does add a new dimension of what will already taking place at the University of Studies through the Center for Marine Sciences, and Professor Weber is the head of that, and the Marine Geology Unit, and the work done for many years by Professor Robinson. We do combine work with the field of marine geology, marine biology, oceanography, but we also connect this to social and administrative realms. We want to be able to provide a multi-scalar typology. What this means is that you can have study areas in key locations that very fine detail. And you also have national policy frameworks that talk about Jamaica. How do you move between those scales of national and beach? This is something that we're going to do in this research and this presentation. Like I said, it's extremely green, fresh stuff. So a lot of this is work in progress, but you see where it can go. Well, we begin in 1494 when Columbus tried to land in St. Anne's Group and ended up in this country. But that's where the modern part of Jamaica. We have the Tainos that existed before that. But this is where the modern Jamaica officially began. In 1655, Negril took Jamaica from Spanish and then became British. It became a jumping off point for a lot of their adventures in the New World against Spain and so on. You have people like Morgan, development of Port Royal, as the wickedest city in the world, and then June 1692 occurred, which led to the destruction of Port Royal. Why is it important in the framework of coastal legislation? Obviously, Port Royal is a coastal town, but you do have coastal hazards that act upon Port Royal, even though the epicenter of the earthquake was not in Port Royal. Port Royal suffered from tsunami, it suffered from the results of the tsunami and earthquake, death and disease, and so on. But in 1891, the dawn age of tourism. We had an international exhibition when a tourism policy was started to be developed. Hotels were built, people were trained in hospitality and so on. You have different focus on the resource as the coastline, apart from the landing people and equipment and shipping off sugar and so on. But 40 years later, service began from the Panama flying boats, and leisure tourism really began in more earnest. We really haven't looked back. But in 1907, history repeated itself with an earthquake that was epicenter in the same area, affecting Houston again, Port Royal again, Algiers again, and you have liquefaction and Giddy House. All of these occur again in the coastal zone, in the coastal environment. It's not just sea level rise, it's far more catastrophic at certain times as well. But we must also know from historical standpoint that the coastal communities were our first communities. This is also where slaves were dropped off, sugar was on the road, building supplies, textiles, people were offloaded from England, including missionaries who were very instrumental in the emancipation movement. There were comparatively few inland communities other than Lisbon and so on, until after abolition, we started having more inland communities developing from ice-free towns. Black River, for example, was the first town in Jamaica to have electricity, automobiles, and telephones, again, not Kingston. Nowadays, Kingston is Kingston dominates all aspects of Jamaican life, and again, it's great that we're not in Kingston, and we're showing that Kingston is not Jamaica. There's been a lot of work done on the coastal zone. We have work done by the Marine Geology Union, the Center for Marine Science, etc. You know, doing work in shoreline changes, beach profiles, everything down to sea level, survey and so on. But there is a new generation of scientists coming who are really standing on the shoulders of the world and the workers who come before them. And these guys are looking at far more complex systems, far more complex data. Looking at coastal and ocean dynamics, climate change, economics, and so on. So the maximum, the Burgess, the Negril, these guys are using very complex systems, bringing coastal research into the 21st century. Has their sudden and their gradual impacts. Storm surge, tsunami, liquefaction, these guys take the land share potential. But sea level rise is obviously very ominous. It is very recent that a lot of controversy right now. But long-term processes, wave storming, tidal effects. You have sea land intrusion of coastal aquifers. All of these things are not overnight kind of things, but they have catastrophic, very positive impacts. These can exacerbate storm surges more. They can exacerbate the impact of very high effects. Coastal defenses range in the natural, reef system, mangrove system, and landfalls themselves provide shelter. And the artificial breakwater nourishment program methods. But artificial defense also include policies that prevent development, that protect and guard against any impacts. And breakwaters now, so I'm beginning to wade into some deep water with you guys, but you do have immediate protection, you do have possible, you do have a low maintenance cost. I'm going to give you some numbers in a bit. But the fund usually is that you don't look at construction costs and the impact of the construction itself. It's tend not to be palatable. Nourishment, on the other hand, we do low impact and little bit. But you do have funds of long-term maintenance systems to be supported. You have logistics of resupply, which is key. You have to continue to nourish the fish and the cost for this. A key thing here is an example from the experience of Miami Beach is that nourishment isn't just done. You identify the sources. And sometimes the sources, you have to understand the environmental impact at source. Sometimes there are local and international laws, so in case of marriage, they get assigned from Congress. You've identified the source of the US and the Big Sea, and then you have to pump it or barge it or truck it to the location. Then you all start looking at costs, range from option of $1 million mobilization to $10 per cubic yard, to local onshore terrestrial sources, you get $40 per cubic yard. So the cost effectiveness depends on the scale. But there are important cost and regulatory considerations that we need to look at. So, we're going through time a little bit, let's go through space. And first myth that we want to bust is that all hazard tornadoes include Tokyo and Mexico City are two of the largest cities on the earth, and both of them are sitting in earthquake prone areas and already active volcanoes. Tokyo with Mount Fuji, Mexico City with Montego, as well as coastal areas home dehydration can be helped. We'll look at the case of Amsterdam. But one of the things that drives decisions and considerations globally, you have to consider the environment, you don't know about that. But there are also engineering, feasibility, as well as economics that determine ultimately whether this thing goes ahead. But everything needs to be threaded together with a proper, sound, transparent policy that can be ad hoc. It has to be clear to understand. It can't just be technocrats who can meet their understanding, understand and process this. It needs to be very transparent, plain English. Now, Japan is a highly industrialized country, the largest economy, population, blah blah blah. But it is an island nation. That's what I'm coming to. That's what I'm using as a basis of comparison. They do have lots of examples where they can up and down the Japanese coast. Some of these things have better impacts on others. They do alter the coastline. In the case of the Alpha, you do have altered coastlines, both erosion and deposition occurring as a result of coastal engineering at the river mouth. And this is a schematic that any coastal engineer understands. But again, this is what's going on in Japan, where you do have sedimentation occurring on one side of the breakwater and erosion occurring on the other side of the breakwater. Now, Miami is not an island nation, although it does resemble Cuba sometimes. But they do have tourist-related interest. 14 million tourists get there every year. 35% alone go to Miami Beach. We include Baja and Key Biscayne and other regions, pushing that up to 50%, 40 million per year go to Miami. But I want you to look at that image. You do see a lot of examples of coastal engineering up and down that picture from dredged CDs reclaiming land, artificial islands, beach nourishment, water structures, wetlands, and so on. But all of these have very strong regulatory system in place at both the federal, state, county, city, and individual business levels. They're all bought into the system. It's not one person driving that, but there's much technology in that place. And then, of course, we have to have strong beach nourishment activities, not just nourishing it, but also re-nourishing it and continuing. And this is where we have to look at Miami Beach in the early 1970s on the left, and Miami Beach in the early 1980s on the right, as a result of beach nourishment. Now, the current situation, this is Jamaica. Population. These are where concentration of people are. Actually, things that go more a lot of parts of Jamaica. But other areas only have as a high population. But you cannot separate people from infrastructure, things in the area. Portmore, Montego, Ocean, these guys have very high concentration of assets, things, non-residential entities. These are your schools, your workplaces, your shops, your ATMs, your restaurants, anything that's not your house. And one of the things I was sharing with you, the case of Galveston, Texas, where the impact of recent storm surge activities were greater in areas that had been developed rather than areas that had been left to its natural state. And here we're talking not about breakwater, but simple people building houses in areas, removing mangrove vegetation and dismantling the reefs. That's a very different type of threat. And here are your facts and figures. 174 communities out of 829 official communities in Jamaica. 679,000 people directly from the shore. 273 hotels, 207 factories. These are the assets, these are the people, these are the stakeholders in the coastal areas. Old Harbour has the most people. Gulby, Waterford, and so on. But Montego has the most things, followed by the Julius and central downtown Kingston. So, these are the low-lying areas in Jamaica, the coastal belt. Storm surge, sea level rise, those things. And we have very recent evidence, examples from Hurricane D, on storm surge activity and impacts in Caribbean Terrace, in Kingston, and Long Point in Lyew-Ayee. The case of Negril, we have top estimates of loss of beach meter per year, expected to disappear for 30 years, and very high demand for beach use, etc. So there's this plan to build a breakwater. And this is expected to do water protection. I looked at the reviews of different studies, and we have photograph. Peter Edwards in 2013 looked at the situation as did Swiftwater in 2013. Swiftwater showed a 50% reduction in wake energy, increased sedimentation, saves. Peter Edwards looked at a combination of hard structures and soft structures. Breakwaters are fine, nourishment is fine, both need to work together. But more importantly, and probably more tellingly, is the importance of the story with seagrass. Yes, you need to stabilize the subaquatic environment. You need to reduce pollution in the area that is destroyed, and so on. You also found the long-term benefits outweigh the short-term benefits. I'm sure you guys are going to discuss this more detail later. But again, don't shoot the messenger. But what is possible now is using modern simulation. They're not able to put Negril and all these different aggregations and all these different interests, and not just Negril, into a virtual environment. You can go back in time and find past models. You can go forward, you can add on that a little bit. You can dredge a channel or restore it and see what happens to the physical environment. Visualization is so critical in 3 dimensions. An area may flood horizontally, it looks blue. But are you going to come to your ears or are you going to come to your ankles deep? All of these things, a 3-dimensional environment is very important. Perspective to model processes, to model situations, and so on. It's a land of food and water, but it's also land of fish and lobster. You do have seagrass, you do have offshore environment. It's very important for fisheries, very important for shipping. All of these things, you cannot separate land from sea. Processes that occur upstream affect downstream and flow into the sea. Construction activity, deforestation, all these things do have impacts. We're a small island in the next state. We do have interests far beyond our watersheds or our beach. It's a system that we're all in. We don't have the benefit of the Atlantic coast and Pacific coast separated by 5,000 miles or nothing. So we need to treat the system as one. We also need to understand the local complexities that exist as well. And modeling simulations now allow for, in the top right image, you'll see infrared modeling, infrared imaging of seagrass. You do have current circulation models in Portland Light. All this is currently going on by now. You do have, along with invasive and ballast water modeling in Kingston Harbor to prevent invasive species from coming into Kingston Harbor. You're able to model these things. These aren't static sample collection. These are dynamic processes that go forward and back and subject to change as you or the environment sees fit. So, what we try to do here at the beginning of the very new, very green stuff, we isolated, Jamaica is isolated and divided into roughly about 7,000 enumeration districts, which is the finest administrative demarcation of Jamaica. You do have 63 constituencies and 800 communities and so on. Really fine. What this means is that we isolate every single beach in Jamaica continuously. Whether it's a real beach or just a coastal. What this means is that you don't study one and not the other. You have a continuous island shoreline that can be isolated and described differently. This also allows for extrapolation from local research, sample beaches, and take them somewhere else and find out whether those processes or those descriptions go true. This is not designed to maybe cross-eyed or an exam or whatever. This is designed to show you many different variables that can go into defining a coastal profile. And there are many more, we're not done. But this is what Alison gave me a deadline for this presentation, so I had to stop. But we found some really interesting patterns. I'm sharing those with you. Now, you have a rocky beach, or a sand beach. You have cliffs, and you have headlands, and you have many different kinds of coastal landforms. Even in this example, you can see it. There's a beach with a cliff behind it, and there's a beach with no cliff behind it. In a bay. All of these things can be described differently, spoken about differently, but they don't factor in the social administrative realms. The social administrative realms are very important because these are where you have the owners of the beach, the policies, whatever. These are the councillors who can take charge of political government. These are the landowners that are in a particular area that can enact changes all the time. So we began to look at measures of durability from the shape and form, the geomorphology of the coastline. There's 2D and 3D shapes. We also look at wave height, we look at offshore characteristics. Now we're going to go pretty quickly through the different shorelines of Jamaica. Different areas have different elevations and slopes. Different areas have different bathymetries. Again, from bathymetry, we see in northern and northeast Jamaica it gets deep very quickly. That's what's reflected in those areas. The green areas is not very deep. Some areas are close to reefs and others. Some areas are very far from reefs. Some areas have mangroves right along them, others don't. Some areas have alluvium and coastal deposits fed by surface water systems, others don't. Some have experienced high wave heights with 50 years of period, 50 years of period wave heights and so on. So we try to begin to combine sediment source and shape and physical characteristics and environmental characteristics of coastline to create 16 different categories of coastline, ranging from AA, the perfect coastline, to WAW, the worstest coastline. And here we go. Oh, I'm making the point. You have many different beaches in Jamaica, many different products. And those are the frequency. But when we began to plug them together, you begin to see Negril is what we call an ABW beach, which is a similar profile to Silver Sands, Long Bay, St. James, Old Hough, the physical profile. James Bond Beach, those guys are WW, the worst. Port Escudel, Manatee Bay, Long Bay, Manchester, these have higher durability profiles. So in other words, we're able to compare beaches of similar types from the point of view of sediment, physical protection, and environmental natural. So we look at durability, put them all together. Red lines indicate low durability beaches. They don't have a lot of physical protection. They don't have a lot of safe, reliable sediment to resupply them. And some of them don't supply. So 62% of the beaches in Jamaica are low durability beaches, including the blue. So on Sunday, there was this article in the paper that stole my original title, Professor Brown. And they spoke about this beaches. Experts warn of dangerously rising sea level across Jamaica. So let's test my new model. And there was a line that said of the 9 beaches looked at, and again, 9 beaches, 365 beaches, but we'll get to that in a minute. Of the 9 beaches, the fastest eroding were Negril, which is red, Old Hough Bay, which is red, and Long Bay, which is red. So far so good in terms of model validation. Now we need to factor in non-physical. Some areas are low durability, but nobody lives there, nothing is there. One factor in population. So, Helsh and Old Hough have high population, but relatively high durability beaches. Whereas areas like Falmouth and Bow have high infrastructure concentrations and high durability. It's the area in the red box that we need. With low durability and high populations, or low durability and high infrastructure concentrations. What this means is that in if you add more infrastructure, we're going to take the scale. In Negril, Old Hough, and Parris, if you add more people, we're going to take the scales. No area in Jamaica has a high concentration of people and infrastructure and low durability coastline. That is key. If you're in the red box, you have to really look at the situation differently. So, not all shorelines are the same. Some are more durable, some are more vulnerable than others. So no one solution fits all of this scale. But stepping outside with historical interest at play and a very big example that in Port Royal, I don't know what crucial area for oil. But again, there are interests from historical perspective. These are the areas that the first comes into it, of course, there's historical interest. But the environmental interests are always there, and economic demand will manifest itself. All of these things we need to have the information together. That is what Professor Gerald wanted to do. How do you synthesize information? Technology allows you to do all things that you need. You can do a lot more, you can add a lot more, you can do a larger area. You can factor in so many things, not just the physical. But the key thing here is we need to start applying knowledge around study. Always study, another study. We need to start doing something with it. So finally, we make a quote in terms of what Einstein said about solving problems. We need to think differently. Different ideas, different approaches, but we need to think differently. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Expectation. Rome is burning people. Thank you.
Well, I think Dr. Lyew-Ayee certainly delivered a wealth of information, very new information, a very interesting perspective, a very unique perspective. For me, what stuck in my mind was a wholesome definition and his approach to the many different components of the coastal zone and the many different factors that influence it. He went through the history of the coastal zone. Some of that stuck in my mind, but I don't necessarily know as much detail, especially in terms of tourism and the coastal zone, as was presented. We went into the compositions, the types, the factors of the coastal zone. And Dr. Lyew-Ayee took it across the different scales. He brought together the scale at an individual beach, and he also extended that to a national scale and looked at the national implications across the board for that. And finally, the applied technology. What was absolutely fascinating to me with that is that it represents a convergence of so many of the traditional methods that are used to generate this information and this data, but it shows us an alternative use of GIS that many of us, well, speaking for myself at least, you would not necessarily think of using it and utilizing it in that manner to generate that kind of data. So, Dr. Lyew-Ayee, thank you very much for your presentation. At this point, I would like to ask another colleague, Ms. Audrey Kirkland, to come forward. And I'd like to ask Dr. Lyew-Ayee to please accept this small token of our appreciation for making this lecture possible, and also for sharing in this milestone 10th annual public lecture with us. Thank you, Dr. Lyew-Ayee. And we were pleasantly surprised when Dr. Lyew-Ayee indicated that he also had a presentation to make. So I'll ask our chairman, Breakwater, to come forward, please. Now, I know that Barry had mentioned in his introduction that Dr. Lyew-Ayee had developed a natural hazards atlas of Jamaica, and this is a copy of the natural hazards atlas of Jamaica being presented to Breakwater. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, I am going to take a few minutes and just recognize a few of the organizations that are present. I do not have everyone, but it's just really to say thank you for showing up and thank you for supporting this important event. So I was told that Professor Simon Mitchell, who's the head of GeoG at the University of the West Indies, was able to make it, so we welcome him. I know that Jamaica Environment Trust is here. There are a few high schools and definitely Irwin High is represented. Obviously, the Montego Community College is represented here. The Bay Marine Park, Stamshire Teachers College, Seascape Caribbean. I know we have some interested residents in attendance as well. And no hoteliers are also in attendance, and one of our panelists is also a member of that industry. CL Environmental is here. Another one of our panelists hails from that organization. Nationwide, we see in the back. JIS, the University of the West Indies, there are a few other organizations who fall under that umbrella. Discovery Marine Lab, I know definitely is here and represented. Western Campus, University of the West Indies again, is represented. And in terms of some of our community organizations, there's the Bluefields Bay Fishermen's Friendly Society. Okay, and I've just been told that Nathan Robb, the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, is here, so thank you for being here. And I'd like to recognize you especially. Show of hands. Okay, welcome. Our Lions Club, some of our social development commissions are here. And I believe that Anatomy Community Development and Environmental Association is also here. So thank you all. If I did not mention you specifically, it's just because I have not yet received your name, but thank you. And we're going to go ahead and move into the panel discussion. I have asked Dr. Lyew-Ayee to remain on the stage because he will be one of our panelists, and I'm now going to ask my colleague again, Barry Lewis, to come on up and invite our panelists to join us on stage.
Thank you, Alison. Mr. Wayne Cummings, an alumnus of Calabar High School, is a career hotelier. He began his career at Sandals Resorts International as a management trainee in 1989. He formalized his hospitality background with an associate degree in hotel and restaurant management from Hough College in Ohio, and certification in restaurant and hotel management from the prestigious École Hôtelière de Lausanne in Switzerland. In addition, he has various industry certifications in facilities management, customer service, team motivation, and people management. His career in hospitality began when he joined Sandals Resorts International, and he has remained there to this day. When Mr. Cummings started as a management trainee, he worked at Sandals Montego Bay, where he specialized in rooms division management and has subsequently worked in most of the company's Caribbean resorts, holding increasingly more senior positions from rooms division manager to assistant manager to hotel manager to general manager. He is currently a senior director at Sandals Resorts International's corporate office with responsibility for the cruise administration and business processes. In his almost 26 years in the industry, Mr. Cummings has worked with some of the most dynamic hospitality professionals locally and internationally to help chart a course for Jamaican and regional tourism. He has also championed the introduction of Sandals Resources Environmental Management Systems in 1998, bringing Sandals Negril Beach Resort and Spa to then Green Blue certification, an initiative that now sets the standards for all Sandals properties. Mr. Cummings challenges himself and those around him to think creatively, driving efficiencies in operations that he manages and is constantly finding better ways to do things. He has an eye for design, time for reworking processes, and a passion for his staff. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wayne Cummings. Dr. Carlton Campbell, he's an environmental scientist and a council-certified indoor environmental consultant with over 15 years experience in the field. For the last 15 years, he has been the owner and managing director of CL Environmental Company, which provides a range of environmental management services through a team of multidisciplinary scientists and consultants. Services include environmental impact assessments, environmental monitoring, occupational health and safety, noise and indoor air quality assessments. Carter's love for the sciences began at Warren College, which is also my alma mater, where he was actively involved in sports. He continued his studies at the University of West Indies, where he achieved a BSc in Geography and Zoology in 1992. He later went on to receive an MPhil in Marine Water Quality in 2000, and most recently a PhD in Environmental Biology. Before working as a consultant, Dr. Campbell received valuable experience working for the Department of Life Sciences and as Inspector of Mines in the Ministry of Public Utilities, Mining and Energy. He was also a project officer at Environmental Solutions Limited. Among Dr. Campbell's most notable consulting jobs are the development of a national program of action for land-based sources and activities that impact on marine environment for the National Environmental Planning Agency, the Caribbean Regional Environmental Program Amenity Assessment Project in Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, Dominica, and Jamaica, and the Environmental Impact Assessment of Green Hotels International in Montego and Negril. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Campbell. Our final panelist is Dr. Dr. Abba Maxwell joined the GeoInformatics Institute in November 2006, shortly before completing PhD studies in oceanography at the University of the West Indies, where she also obtained a bachelor's degree with honors in zoology and botany. She is currently Deputy Director of GeoInformatics, where she manages the Natural Hazards and Environment Division, the Human and Social Division, and the Software Development Division. As a lecturer at the University of the West Indies, she delivers Geographic Information Systems courses to graduates, undergraduates, and professionals. Dr. Maxon's range of professional experience spans from coastal processes modeling and spatial analysis to developing spatial solutions for clients across private and non-government sectors. She has led consultancies in GIS application, coastal hydrodynamic modeling, as well as oceanographic, environmental, ecological, and biophysical assessments. She has been instrumental in the development of an award-winning GIS applications, ranging from Jamaica's first navigation system to the integrated crime and violence information system in use by the government of Jamaica. Our network can analyze the kind. She has also collaborated across the Caribbean on projects ranging from reef valuation, shoreline and land coverage change studies, to designing databases, applications, and map tools for coastal zone management. Her academic research has led to publications on the effect of ocean circulation on Jamaica's coral reefs and coastlines, highlighting the importance of coral reefs in ecological nurseries and creating unique circulation systems. She sits on several technical committees related to the environment, education, business, and development. Education and business development. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Max.
Okay, and now that you know who our panelists are, I will ask each of them to get us started just by giving us a few brief remarks regarding their thoughts on what's been presented, regarding their role in Jamaica's coastal zone, etc. It really is up to them precisely what they want to speak of. Obviously, it will apply to the general topic. So I will ask Dr. Maxim to start.
Thank you. The presentation given today was one that was filled with a lot of data, lots of analysis, and of course, it tied back to the realities of our shoreline. It's not enough to, although lots of my background is in simulation and data modeling, it's not enough to just look at the results of these simulations, but then what can we do about it? So we have this new caliber of scientists coming on that will help inform all of the processes that happen with our coastline. But then there is the big question of what do we do next? So I'd like to have the audience, or I'd like to engage the audience with what solutions can you think of, from seeing all of the information presented today, what are your solutions moving forward, and how can you do this in such a way that our coastline does not become focused on the situation on the Negril, but how do we do this in such a way that we can now look at the entire island?
Thank you, Dr. Maxim. Dr. Campbell.
Presentation from our standpoint, from my standpoint, it's important because as time goes by, projects that we work on come in conflict with usage. As Parris has said, there are three ways. And it's important that we start to look at it, taking all of the things into consideration. Some of it in modeling and simulation that I saw. It's quite interesting how we can improve our product. In terms of doing an audit, it's important that you all understand that to make the products, then you're becoming person to see different uses for coastal zone. Also, based on the whole climate change, there are different issues on how we mitigate these impacts. As we said, we have a lot of assets along our coast, and I say we also have a lot of people. It is important that we grasp and understand what's happening and how we mitigate the effects of climate change.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. And I will ask Mr. Cummings now to go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm no doctor, and therefore my interest, of course, as a Jamaican, representing different policies, development orders, etc. Certainly my key interest has been a lot of time in Negril, my working life, and I'm very, very aware of the specific issues of the week. But I was intrigued by the presentation today because it opened my eyes to the national challenge that we have. And as a country, we're going to have to find a way to treat with all of it, the physical, the economic, as well as so many other things that will be a part of the Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you may recall that I mentioned that it was a good idea to make note of your questions and your comments. So I'm hoping you did that, and that you are now prepared to engage us in a very active discussion. In terms of sharing your questions and comments with us, we have wireless microphones available. I ask that if you have a question or comment, you just indicate by raising your hand so we can get a mic to you so that everyone will be able to hear what you have to say. Before asking your questions, I would also appreciate if you would tell us first your name, also the organization with which you are associated, and if your question is directed to a specific panelist, that would also be useful information for you to provide. And I encourage you to go ahead at this point, pull your questions out, and let's get this ball rolling. Who's first up? Show of hands. There are no comments, no questions. Please.
You introduced me earlier, but I'll wear a different hat and I'll ask the applicant to go for it. Obviously, at the moment, we are in an earthquake all the way until month. Not wishing going forward. But through the last two very big earthquakes we have had in Jamaica, we had tsunami associated with both. And that results in something that significantly affects the coastal zone, particularly the lower lying coast. Now, in the past, when the tsunami happened, the population on the coast was relatively minimal compared to what it is today. Have you any ideas, any of you, about the aspects of tsunami in Jamaica and the coastline?
The tsunami of 1692 resulted in the formation of a town across the island called Kingston. Port Royal really was the same after that, but clearly the coastal had in the form of tsunami and suddenly after that. You can just look at the situation from climate action areas of relation. You look at the fact that the tsunami that affected Port Royal in 1692 as well as the other smaller tsunamis that affected Jamaica in its recorded history. I know it is the scale of those of the 2004 tsunami, but it did cause epic damage. The reality is that not only are people at risk, but also infrastructure. Significant buildings, roads, port, airport facilities that will be wiped out or significantly damaged by a tsunami. But we also have, I'm sorry? Okay, that was coming to that. The situation as well, as you saw with the earthquake in Haiti, you do have the effect of liquefaction in the coastal zone as well. The port of France was badly affected. You have hotels and other coastal-related infrastructure in the coastal zone as well that would suffer from the effects of liquefaction. So it's not, so tsunamis are very, the liquefaction is very, even though it is same.
Okay, and anyone else? Over here, please.
I'm from the Jamaican environmentalist. I guess I want to start with Dr. Maxwell's question. sat in a lot of these kinds of presentations, and I've heard, similar and different, but there were some new elements tonight, descriptions of these complex postal processes, these complex functions. And yet what I see in our decision making is a very simplistic approach to how we manage our postmen. There's a big disconnect between the work that's being done in the academy, the stuff that's written in environmental impact assessments, and what actually happens on the ground. And I guess I want to ask the panel, but particularly you, Dr. Lyew-Ayee, you're the chairman of the interviewing as well as a scientist that has described to us very eloquently the complexity of these processes, the need for ecosystem restoration, the dangers that face us, and yet we are, to my mind, about to have these two breakwaters built in Negril without taking into consideration all of these complexities. We basically picked out those breakwaters out of the studies that we referred to, which all call for many other different things. And I believe we're about to build them. Have contracts been awarded?
I don't know that anyone here is able to speak to whether the contracts have been awarded or not. We did try to have some other persons come and join us today who may have been able to address that, but they were unable to attend.
We talk about the fact that we all talk about these complex things, and yet our actions are not that way. How are we going to ever fix that?
Okay, so your question was originally directed to Dr. Maxim, and then there was a portion that you had wanted to direct to Dr. Lyew-Ayee. Dr. Maxim, just as a follow-up, did you have anything that you wanted to say? And once Dr. Maxim responds, I'm actually going to ask Dr. Campbell to respond to that, if you would please.
The solution will not be an easy one. I think we're all pretty much in agreement on that. And even coming out of Dr. Lyew-Ayee's presentation, there were suggestions for example, using a combination of hard and soft structures. The case of Negril is one where right, so I was saying the case of Negril is a good example of a coastline where if we had acted appropriately in good time, something could have been done about it. Unfortunately, it got to the point where it is now, and the proposal of using the breakwater is seen as a needed measure or a needed step. But I do agree that along with that hard engineering being implemented, there should be soft measures put in as well. So, need your renourishment, planting mangroves to help stabilize the coast. There are many studies that have shown that a combination of both is what is good in the long run.
I'm going to address the Negril issue. As well said, it's a complex issue. In terms of the hard structures, their argument is having a soft solution. Fact of the matter is, I think everybody agrees that a combination of hard and soft is probably the best option for Negril. The reality is, we're responding to X amount of money to do some work. The reality is, we see that you do the hard structure first or the soft engineering. What's the reality? If you do the soft engineering, you come to the sand in Breakwater, the tropical airport from offshore. The reality is that there's no guarantee that the first storm that comes along, that the sand will remove. So it's a matter of faith. You have limited funds, you want to reduce the wave action on the shore to help slow down the erosion. And of course, as I said, the nourishment afterwards, so that you have a hard structure to help keep the sand in place once it's laid. I think most persons are of the opinion that the government and NFA wants us to do the hard structure, but the reality is financing. You can only do so much at a time based on financing. The other reality with the soft engineering, as alluded to in the presentation, but there's a cost of maintenance. You look Amsterdam, you look everywhere, most persons within 5-7 years will have to do that renourishment. And what they have done in the different countries is to have a mixture to keep the sand there longer so that you don't have to keep it fresh.
Thank you, Dr. Maxwell and Dr. Campbell. Any other, okay, I see another hand over here. Can we get a mic, please?
My name is Negril. I live in Negril, Jamaica, and I am against Breakwater. I would like to say that while Dr. Campbell has said that we all believe that we need a solution that has hard and soft structures, that is incorrect. No one really wants hard solutions. They always ask for soft solutions and environmentally sound and safe solutions. Breakwaters were never an option for stakeholders. The other thing I'd like to point out is that at this point in time, from December 2013, Negril has more standardized beach than it has in the past 10 years. So while all your documents are telling us that we're suffering from terrible erosion, all the hot spots which are on the southern side of Long Bay, not the northern as we say, all have beach in front of these days which you have to step off of their property because it was built too far down to the shore, which NEPA has never done anything about. Has about 10 foot, 15 foot of beach in front of it. Footprints, Roots Bamboo, Mariposa, Rondell Village, they all have lots of beach. Greenhouse also has lots of beach on their bar. You have to walk through it to traverse the beach. The famous Parris bar sign on the dead tree right at the southern end of Swatway has been in sand for over a year. It has not been in water. So maybe something is not correct. And I don't know what it is that you think breakwaters are going to do to stop erosion. Erosion is being caused with the storms. We have no control of the storms. Other countries around the world are all shying away from building these. There's only one property and one company in Negril that has said they want them. The rest of the community has said no. And I cannot understand what it is that one company knows that the rest of us don't, why they think it's going to benefit us. And I would love to have that answer from Mr. Cummings.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Cummings.
I expected the question to be directed to you. No problem. I am very sensitive to the Negril issue. I spent enough time down there to understand that. I was also the president of the Chamber of Commerce when the study was done by Smith Warner, albeit an interim study that recommended a mix of hard and soft and a number of other things. I was also party to the discussions about identifying the funding, international funding, and putting a lot of pressure on successive governments to get the funding and get the work done. So I'm very familiar with the situation. I would suggest that the sand comes and the sand goes, and I promise you, it will come and it will keep on going until something fundamental is done about it. I'd like to invite the Sandals Negril to say that the sand has not come. It has not come. We have spent, as a company, millions of dollars. I'm not in disagreement with you. I'm giving you the position that I know. Millions of dollars buttressing beach. We've always been very mindful that anything that one does can affect another. We had taken a decision several years ago to do fundamental work on the San Negril Beach. A big property, I call it all the hotels out there, a fundamental role to play for the community. Our view is that if we can get the issues of a reduction of wave action resolved or at least reduced, we will be in a far better place than we are today. That is why we are supporting this action, because to ask government to take $7 million that they have been able to access, because we asked them to identify these funds, to put sand on the beach without fixing the issues that cause the sand loss, then we would be an irresponsible community. That's why we take the position of guilty.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to say something further to that. While I sympathize with you, and I see the problems you have at San Negril, because I walk the beach, I live there, and I've been going there from as 4 years old. I'm 52 next week. Okay? So that area never used to have, I'm telling you, I'm 52 next week, and that area never had erosion. I believe that probably the groins that have been built in that section do not help your situation there. And there are things that are done, and while I understand that you want to create a great beach, like all the other hotels have done, a lot of seagrass has been moved. And maybe if you had taken the time and Carlton's staff came to the Deltaris meeting, you hear what the Dutch are doing and how they're building with nature and working with the environment to put back their sand and protect their shorelines and not build breakwaters. That's all I'm saying.
I really appreciate your advice, but many years ago, I remember talking in a group with the community and asking the question, when are we going to accept that our beach is virtually dead? I'm not talking about the fact that there's fishes out in front of us. I'm talking about the fact that you have an entire town, you have economics to consider, you have issues where when you have a storm, I saw where people's buildings actually collapsed into the water. I was there. We were all there. And we all think in very small spatial periods. When we have another situation where we have not tried to resolve the issue from an engineering point of view, we're all going to turn back to the same state. And as somebody from an investor, but as a Jamaica, as somebody who walked those beaches as well, we focus a lot on Long Bay. We go 7 miles. And that's just leaving over to WB as well. That beach today, when you go west, when you go east, on a property that Sandoz is now where the trees are. I'm saying that there is a fundamental problem that needs an engineering solution which includes a number of things. We cannot ignore the facts.
Thank you. I believe I saw a hand here first, and then we can go back to you.
Just to expand on what Mr. Cummings had said, I've got a more question for the whole panel. And yes, Carlton, look at me funny because it is my usual broken record question. Where there was sand, because we had first saw it, where did the sand go? And then that's the whole panel, and I'll let Carlton answer.
In terms of where the sun went, with the storms, some of it went, or most of it went into the channel behind the reef. And that's one of the problems like getting at that sand. Some of it would have been in the near shore, but the majority that have gone offshore. There are various opinions on if the volume that is there, if the supply can deal with what we need to do with the beach. I mean, I know a lot of persons have this I believe, and I don't think we have seen enough data. I mean, some probing was done, but that probing cannot tell you definitively, you would need the nearly 700,000 cubic meters of sand. The other thing in terms of getting that sand that a lot of persons have ignored is twofold. One, what happens to that area where you get the sand from? What's around to prevent something or pump it up? The other thing that I think a lot of persons have failed to recognize is how do you get that sand from the offshore, onshore? Negril is shallow, so that 1.5 kilometers, most areas is like 4 or 5 meters. You won't get that far in that easily. So then the option would be to pump with using pipelines. How do you keep those pipelines in place? For me, I have an idea. Others have other ideas. But for me, I think you'll have to have anchors placed also in that seagrass bed to keep them in place.
Actually, my question wasn't so much where did it go?
Sorry, excuse me. Could you use that mic, please?
Sorry, my question wasn't so much where did it go, but why did it go? Because I say this specifically because I'm a former reservation guy out these worlds. And so my focus when I look at a site is not on the current, I look back in the history of it. And so it requires a lot of documentation fishermen at old time, Discovery Bay people from the 70s and stuff like that. And this fits back in with the model more generally of why there was so much bright red. Why there was so much bright red on the top of the coast. Where are these beaches going? And there's not enough discussion, in my opinion, within this whole conversation, regionally, of the loss of coral. We had 2 species of primary coral in the Caribbean that were basically surfaced. Kept up with sea level rise over the previous X number of thousands of years, were the primary accumulators of coral, calcium material in the reef. But ultimately, as branching species, they just grew like crazy, giant big wormwood trees that made it to the surface. That's a major part of this conversation that never makes it in. Unfortunately, it doesn't make it in because we're too young. Mary might remember it. Some people who were there might remember it. Left cat in the bag. Some people who were there might remember it, but ultimately those people started to die in the 1980s. If you weren't there to see it, you wouldn't know they were there. Now you go back to the same sites where they used to be, around the there's giant piles of rock. You can see it, but if you don't know what you're looking at, it just looks like rocks. And then in other areas that are more front of the wash, where those corals wouldn't have been, there's not even indicators of where they used to be due to the high nutrient values of the water and so on and so forth. It's just a vital piece of the conversation that we can't let lie.
And this is why some of the presentations that you'll see in some of the modeling included the importance of the presence of reefs. Where you find that there's significant stanza reef, you find that this is where the coastline tends to do better. And like I said, a lot of where the sediment may have been generated from as a marine source, we find that it will be coming from your reefs to seagrass. So it is important that these are preserved. And so this is something that we did take into account when we were looking at the particular beaches around that would display some types of durability.
Forgive that. In part of modeling, how about the reef, it was not quickly. How about we moved the reef in the modeling and see what happened to the reef was gone.
Right.
It was quick.
Okay. You have a question or comment?
Yes, I have a comment.
Oh, wait. Could you remember please identify yourself? Remember please to identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Sabine Bolenius, and obviously I'm from Negril. I operate a dive shop, Dream Team Divers, so I would say I know the reef quite well. Without wanting really to hijack a panel for the Negril subject, but at the moment it is the kind of very actual kind of action that takes place. I have a question. The Breakwater is planned left and right to reef which is used for snorkeling, which is called migratory. It's not very much alive, plenty of algae, but it's still much to see for people who are coming from Texas, for example. So now left and right, they're building big walls where the footprint is dynamic. This said, oh, it's only there, rocks there. It is not. So now, what I learned from the study, without being a doctor or a scientist, is that obviously a conservation of reef plays a vital role in protecting our beaches. So what this Breakwater is planning to do is the opposite. And my question is, at the same time, you're planning to destroy the reef to save Lake Plan. And secondly, the second question is, so how exactly and where from do you want to get the sand to the beach? Or Mr. Campbell just said you can't get the sand from offshore to onshore. So what exactly is the plan with that?
Just to understand, so the question is in terms of actually putting those breakwater structures in, how at that point would the sand then come back to the beach essentially? Okay, that looks like it might be Dr. Campbell going for the mic.
In terms of the sand, one of the effects of the breakwater is to slow down the crush drip of sand. And once that happens, slows down the current, then what will happen is that sand, with all the sea, is in sediment. No, remember I said to you before that some of the sand is in the near shore. Wave action will stir it up. What will happen with breakwater is slow down velocity, so it will settle out, so you'll find sand deposited. In terms of doing what I was talking before, is in terms of doing beach nourishment, because you're going to need a lot of volume of sand. And as I'm saying before, was that where the maximum sand is found now is offshore, outside of where the reef currently is behind the deeper waters. Now, yeah, but to get it in, then you have to pump it, and that's what I try to say. But the breakwater, once it's in place, will try and maintain what's there, and it sediment.
The sand comes from left and right from the other beaches. So basically, we have the breakwater on exactly like 1.5 mile of a 5-mile beach. So left and right from the breakwater, the beaches on that side will come nicely onto that area. That means the rest of the beach, the other kind of 3 miles, have nothing. So I can't understand your logic at all.
The logic, as I said, we know what the ideal situation is. Ideal situation is to create more breakwater.
Equal stagnation.
I mean, what is back on the matter, as I said before, funding information, there's no really no one.
Hold on one moment. Did Prof. Mitchell, I saw a hand over here first, so so let me take off Mitchell and then I will go back over to you.
I was just going to make a comment about sand, the actual sand. You can identify the sand if you cut it very thin slices and look under the microscope. And most of the sand is not actually coral. Most of it is the organisms that actually live, mostly in the Negril space. And we did a study on the Negril beach a while ago, maybe 15 years ago. But at the same time, we also obtained samples that we collected before the 1980s. So we looked at the beach then, in the 1980s, what it was made then, and about 20 years later. And it wasn't that much difference. The same organisms were producing the sand. I also had a research student who did that for the coast around most of Jamaica. So we've got primary data on what the nature of the sand is in Jamaica. I just thought that might be useful to throw that into the mix.
Okay, I saw two hands over here. Please go ahead first.
Okay, I have a question. From the Negril Chamber of Commerce. I have a question for Dr. Lyew, excuse my pronunciation of your name. You said a very interesting thing in your presentation that Negril is one of the most vulnerable beaches in Jamaica, and that one of the biggest impacts on the beach is development. So my question is there's massive development coming to Negril, there's nearly 1,000 roads being built. Are these breakwaters being built so that this development can take place? Because I have a feeling that there's a lot of development that's taking place that is actually breaking the laws, because some of the homes have been given permission to build at 90 feet from the high water line. The law says 150 feet. So we're, on a daily basis, we are impacting the beach more and more. Is the breakwater going to save these properties from a rising sea level? That's my question to you. Is the breakwater going to stop rising sea level affecting these hotels that are going to be built at 90 feet from the high level watermark? You just told us that Negril is the most vulnerable beach in Jamaica. Thank you.
I'm going to defer the wastewater question. I'm going to defer the wastewater question effectiveness of I'll speak to the vulnerability of Negril. What you saw when I mentioned that low durability, high infrastructure is already past the tipping point that it was in terms of infrastructure, concentration of natural. That's bad. One of the things we have to look out for is increased population pressure on top of that, but also additional pressure from additional infrastructure being added to the same low durability infrastructure. That is the position, that's where we are. Now, in terms of how the wastewater and other post-condition works will change that dynamic, that's a different discussion.
Thank you.
In terms of the question about rising sea levels, when the engineers designed it, they took into consideration what the sea level rise will be over the time period in the design. So yes, it would to some extent deal with rising sea level.
So it would protect the new developments at 90 feet?
I don't know I don't know about necessarily the new development. I think the idea of the breakwater is to protect tourism infrastructure.
1.5 miles of Negril Beach. Negril Beach is 5 miles long.
Yes, and as I said here before, the ideal thing would have been to have more, but funding is an issue.
Okay. One more question. From what I understand from what Dr. Lyew says, is that we really, too many tests, too many reports have been done, we need to have some action. My question is I spoke to people who have done breakwaters around the world, and all of them say to me that their governments did
a coastal zone management plan. Now, I keep hearing stories about they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Don't you think we need a proper coastal zone management plan for Negril and for all the other places in Jamaica before we experiment and use Negril as a guinea pig?
I completely agree, because that is part of the reason why I mentioned for scalability of the situation. National coastal development abstract that don't take into account the variability of the different coastal plans, including the infrastructure and social is key. But you do have lots of different studies in different key areas. Negril being one of them, but you do have a bunch of other parts of coastal development that are very understood. So a top-down, like one size fits all blanket policy is not going to say anything towards your process solution. But that is the point of the scalability of the solution. This is a meso-scale model. This is not a high-resolution, time-scale thing at all. Because one of the key things is that we want to be able to be informed and guided as to how you prioritize. But the key thing is that the coastal zone is not uniform. So a single coastal zone management plan by itself needs to be better informed from a national perspective.
I mean, each area would have their own coastal zone.
Absolutely.
I know one would
precisely.
Okay, I had mentioned that one more person behind you had a question, and then Diane, did I see your hand? Okay.
I'm playing Alan Bradley from Negril, Chamber of Commerce. And I would like to, Mr. Campbell was concerned about funding is an issue. Now you put these breakwaters in, and they have to be maintained. That is an expensive job. You also said that if we do beach nourishment, that's even more expensive. Now who is going to maintain these breakwaters when they are in? Because nothing's built in, because you said funding is an issue. And you have to go for the cheapest option. Breakwaters that are built all over the world are very, very expensive to maintain.
In terms of the maintenance of the breakwater is not as intense as if you're doing beach nourishment. That's a given. In terms of the boulders being placed in there and the design, as was outlined in the EIA, based on the modeling, we don't expect major impacts to be happening on the boulders once they're stormed. So in terms of maintenance, it's much less than the beach nourishment. The maintenance for the beach nourishment is that periodically you have to get more sand to pump. And that's where the problem lies in terms of cost. Because each time you mobilize the dredge to do, there's a cost before the start pumping the sand. And that's a significant cost.
Okay, there was a question down. I think had a comment or a question.
I guess I want to say that, I liked very much to Lyew-Ayee ending of his presentation. He said at the end that you can't solve these problems with the same thinking that creates them. And what strikes me is that exactly what we're continuing to perpetrate the mistakes that have taken us to this point. The emphasis on the infrastructure, the economic activities, we're treating the Negril system as if it's inert, it's just a bunch of sand, that you can dredge it out to the sea or truck it from somewhere, retain it with big boulders. We're treating it as if it's dead. And any suggestion that the things you all talk about in your EIAs are done, those are not the things that can be done very limited funding. It's always an engineering solution. We sit here and pretend that there's going to be proper monitoring. I noticed that Dr. Lyew-Ayee said that we're doing coastal engineering needs strong, very strong, he said, regulatory systems. We do not have that in Jamaica. So we are again walking down the road that has taken us to the place we are with. There have been many points over the years where we could have taken action, Dr. Matson said in the beginning, and we have failed to. And we have done these kinds of just pieces of the solution because there's not enough funding or whatever, and it's not with them. While we are doing this, we are putting more funds into children and more people. We are thinking we're going to have a different result. Gentlemen and ladies, we're not going to have a different result. You are basically condemning this place to just deterioration, further deterioration, slowly over until it becomes a place no one wants to go to. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Over there, I saw his hand and he hasn't spoken. And I also saw Dr. Odo, who has not spoken yet, so I'm going to give him the opportunity to speak. And we are about to start wrapping up. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening. We're in Francis from along the way, coming to the line of social law. And to my right is our Secretary for the Arts. I now turn your attention to another Eastern
You speak into the mic a little bit more, please.
Another way to Dover is rapidly deteriorating with coastal erosion. It is affecting the Dover swamp, and we need some attention. Dr. I asked you to pay some attention to this area. Another way itself is geographical New Zealand, and our community group is doing a number of studies and so forth to address this problem. And we really need assistance here, because when we have storm surges, flood out, so we really need some attention there. And at this forum, I put this problem to the forum here to help us to address this critical problem we are facing, where coastal erosion is taking.
I have a question for you. Has anything been undertaken in the Anatomy area that you could share with us to address this issue as yet, or something that you're aware of?
Let me just use this opportunity to thank you. Yeah, so
we have a working history.
Yes, we have done some work together here, and this Weber who are close with us. We have done studies that is the multi-hazardous assessment for this is the first of its kind for Jamaica. And coming out of that, we really want to use those information to address the problem. That's why I want to help us speed up this process, because we really need some attention there. Recently, I took to clean up here to highlight some of these problems, and Tuesday, I went to a Parris in Breakwater to also address this problem. So I bring it to the forum, especially now that I need to speed it up for us. Alright, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Bruno, you had your hand up?
My name is not a legal person, but I have a question about the modeling. What I'm doing and can't do. So you're globally high capability course directors. Are you able to model the development plans for all these areas to probably influence change in the development plans? Yes. Part two. We don't want to get to the point where we're too much here.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then, okay, we have time for two more questions, and then we are going to move to wrapping up. Ladies?
My name is Melvina Nixon. I'm a resident of Negril, and
what's happening here. What the reality is, the agencies that are put in place to help to protect the environment need to really get their ventures in and start writing to assist the builders, the developers in Negril, stop building contrary to the building plans that we have. And this is one step that needs to be taken before we start putting those weapons or those missiles in the ocean to hit us in Negril. We're over. How do we manage when all this massive construction starts and the children can't grow in the communities because it's now become a filter lane to accommodate this massive construction? These are questions the residents of Negril would really need answer to. And I can't help but to, figure the great rush that is in to have this project going. A project that was really started and planned out with the residents of Negril knowing about it. Okay, so we really need some answers before we reach the whole thing to plan for this massive construction. We really don't want that. We really want something to help to sensitize the residents of Negril so that we can know what to do to prevent this form of erosion that will take place in the future.
Thank you for sharing your concerns. I think we have that last person.
I'd just like to say that I have to agree with what Mr. Saul said, and that we are going backwards instead of forwards. This whole issue has dominated this thing. It seems like we're going to want a lot of questions here about Sri-Lanka or Sergeant. I don't see anybody from Minnesota here to answer some of the questions. I don't know if they're here, probably don't take part. We have no confidence that this whole scheme to build Breakwater is going to work. They keep on saying that the engineer on the project, who has a degree in civil engineering and a master's in environmental engineering, not in coastal engineering, has said that they will accrete 12 to 13 meters of sand over a 7-year period on the northern section of Negril Beach. Then the NWA head of engineering at the time told us at one meeting it would not accrete any sand. Then the following month he told us it would accrete sand. He didn't understand the question. And at the last presentation in Negril, NWA gave us a handout which said it would accrete 44 feet of sand in 1 year. Where is this sand coming from? Our sand production is extremely low in Negril. We have destroyed all the mechanisms for making sand there. So, we have no confidence in this project, and we don't want it. The government is not listening, members are not listening, no one is listening to us, and we're saying it loud and clear, we don't want Breakwater.
Thank you very much for your comments. Okay, at this point I am going to go ahead and thank our panelists most sincerely. They have certainly weathered quite a few questions and we appreciate it tremendously. And I'm going to thank our audience. It was certainly the lively discussion that we anticipated. I think it was actually more lively than we thought it would be. So thank you for your participation. At this point, I am going to invite our panelists. They have the option to remain here. We're literally on the last of the program, our closing remarks. They may remain here or they may return to their seats. And I am actually going to go ahead and just invite Barry to come ahead and give the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Alison. I just want to make a couple of announcements very quickly. We have copies of the lecture booklet outside on either side of the exit. You should be able to get copies of the lecture booklet. Please feel free to take a few of them with you. There will be refreshments served immediately in front of the building as you exit. And that's about it. If you want to see the taped version of this lecture, it will be on our website as well. So, in terms of closing, I just want to thank the panelists. They did fielded very, very interesting questions. We want to thank the lecturer, Dr. Parris, Lyew-Ayee Jr., the members of the Montego Community College, Reggae Tech Limited, Negril, Nationwide Radio, and all of the media houses here, RGR and GIS, the Ag Printry, Breakwater, Jamaica, Chris Benjamin and his staff, Terry and Miller of TAEM, and the EMK staff who helped to make this event a success. Thank you all for coming.